Hello and welcome to the Gay Cruise and Travel Podcast with me, Joey T. All right, we are back with some useful consumer advice this week. Quite a few episodes ago, a couple months ago, I think, I did an episode on credit cards, and I talked about miles and points with credit cards specifically. And today, we're going to shift it back to credit cards, but we're not going to be talking about miles and points per se. I think it's important for anyone who's traveling to have a good credit card to use on their travels, not just to book their travels. You know, that's one thing. If you're going to buy an airplane ticket, you're going to book a cruise, you're going to reserve a hotel room, there are going to be benefits to using a credit card for that. But what about when you're actually on the road or in the air after you've gone to wherever you're supposed to be traveling to at some faraway dream destination overseas, wherever you are in the world away from home? I recently made a mistake that I shouldn't have made. I have too many credit cards. Some might say I don't even know how many credit cards I have. That's a completely separate topic, but I've got several different credit cards for different purposes. And I recently used the wrong credit card for a purchase. What do I mean by the wrong credit card? Well, I got charged a fee for using this credit card for this particular purchase. Without going to lots of details about this particular purchase, basically, what I did was I made a foreign purchase. That is a purchase with a company that was not based in the US, that was not going to be charging me in US dollars, on a credit card that charged me a fee for doing that. And that is called a foreign transaction fee. And the foreign transaction fee is something that if you're going to be traveling outside of your home country, it's very important to know what this fee is, because chances are you might need to buy things when you're traveling internationally, anytime you're traveling, okay? For like food, to eat meals, for just basic sustenance, okay? You're gonna need to be spending money, and the likelihood is you're gonna be using a credit card. And if you use the wrong credit card, like I did for this one purchase, you're going to be charged a lot of these fees. So this purchase that I made, a foreign transaction that I made on this credit card that did charge me foreign transaction fees, it was $100 converted back. And I got charged $2.99 for this one single purchase. Now, this does not only mean when you physically use your credit card in a foreign country while you're on your travels. The purchase that I talked about where I said I used the wrong credit card, that was an online purchase. I was purchasing tickets to an event in a different country, and that qualified as a foreign transaction because the company that charged the transaction, that charged me for that purchase, was based in a different country and was also charging me in a different currency than my home country currency. So it's not just when you are physically in a different country that this fee might apply. It also applies if you are shopping online. So if you are planning a trip to go to some other country, you might be trying to book excursions or events or tickets to a show or anything like that. And that can also incur these foreign transaction fees. Imagine if I had went traveling to a different country with this credit card and I was there for a week. And I use this credit card for everything, for meals, for gifts, for entertainment, like anything you might need to spend money on. And every transaction, I got charged $2.99. I could have racked up possibly hundreds of dollars just in fees by using the wrong credit card. So today, that is the lesson, okay? That is why if you will be traveling internationally outside of your home country, you need to have a credit card that does not charge you a foreign transaction fee. A lot of credit card advice out there, especially on some of the ritzier travel websites that cater more towards points and miles, they don't always mention or make a big deal about foreign transaction fees. But the advice that I'm going to give to you listeners of this podcast around credit cards and just travel, a lot of times it's going to be aimed more at those people who are not frequent professional travelers. I feel like the frequent flyers, the people that travel all the time, those are the ones that tend to already know some of these lessons. And I feel like it's for the people who don't travel all the time. You might just travel once or twice a year when you do have, those vacation days from work. I think those are the people that need the advice the most. And so this is one of the most important credit card related lessons to learn if you are not a frequent traveler, but you do have travel plans, international travel plans in your future at some point, or you are aspiring to maybe take your first international trip, for example. So today, we're going to go through some of the credit cards that are good examples of credit cards that would be good to hold if you are one of those infrequent international travelers. So what are we looking for specifically? If you are one of those travelers that you don't travel internationally that much, what exactly are the things you should be looking for if you want to make sure you have a credit card in your wallet that is not going to ding you with a bunch of fees when you do travel internationally? So we talked about foreign transaction fees. There are a lot of credit cards out there that do not charge foreign transaction fees at all. So you never even have to worry about this. And that's the first thing we're going to look for. First thing you should look for in a credit card for international travel: no foreign transaction fees. Second thing to look for, if you're not traveling that much, it's likely that a lot of you probably don't want to pay money for a credit card. The credit cards that charge an annual fee, a lot of them are like the flashy looking ones that you see in ads and billboards and even commercials now. But I'm gonna give you examples today of some credit cards that do not charge any annual fee. So there's no fee to actually just have the credit card, even if you're not using it or doing anything with it. And they will also not charge you a foreign transaction fee. And the final thing I think you should look for in a travel credit card is it'd be good if it was a Visa or a MasterCard for acceptance reasons. I have a lot of American Express or Amex cards, but I personally like Amex. They really fit with my spending patterns, and I really like the benefits on a lot of the credit cards. Those are kind of like, actually most of the spending I do are actually on Amex cards actually. But there are some countries where Amex, as an example, is not widely accepted. So I have family in Vancouver, up in Canada, and I visit them like 3-4 times a year. And in Canada, a lot of places, at least in Vancouver, a lot of places do not take Amex. So I basically put my Amex cards away when I go to Vancouver. I have to use Visa or MasterCard. So because you don't necessarily know at the time when you're getting and applying for a credit card which countries in the future, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the line you might be visiting, it would be better to go with a Visa or MasterCard, because pretty much 100% of the time, there's probably not going to be any place that doesn't take Visa or MasterCard. So those are the 3 things I think you should look for, kind of the 3 requirements, if you will. No foreign transaction fee, no annual fee. Well, if you're okay to pay a little bit of annual fee for more perks, I'll probably do another episode later to give some advice on some other possible credit cards you can look into. But let's just go with no annual fee, but you don't have to really pay one to get a good set of perks out of a credit card. And we're going to stick with Visas and MasterCards. I'm going to give you examples of 3 different credit cards that I found that meet all 3 of these criteria. But in addition to that, I'm going to do you one better. They also offer some additional rewards or travel-related perks, okay, that are the icing on top of the cake, or like the cherry on top. Bonus points, not necessarily something you might be expecting or need out of your travel credit card, but they're nice things to have, okay? All right, the first credit card is the Amazon Prime Visa and also the Amazon Visa. So they're 2 separate credit cards, but they're very similar, okay? Now, Amazon Prime, Amazon Visa card. You might be thinking, how does an Amazon co-branded credit card make for a good travel card? Like, that doesn't make sense. There are a lot of credit cards out there that are explicitly marketed as a travel card. There are a lot of credit cards out there that are co-branded cards with airlines. There may be like a Delta credit card, American Airlines credit card, United credit card. There are also co-branded credit cards with a lot of hotel chains, like a Hilton credit card, a Marriott credit card. I looked through all of those. Don't worry, I was very thorough in my research. But in terms of the criteria that we're looking at, and also giving some extra perks that would be useful for most people, this two Amazon credit cards actually outdoes a lot of those like more explicit travel branded credit cards. So let's get into why I think these two particular credit cards, obviously, especially if you shop at Amazon, but even if you don't, are actually really, really good choices. The Amazon Prime Visa, Prime being the key word. So this credit card is for those of you that have an Amazon Prime membership. It kind of requires your Amazon Prime membership to be active. But assuming you have a Prime membership, it's no annual fee, no foreign transaction fees. The good thing about this credit card is that it's got a lot of travel protections and insurances that are great for if you're going to be traveling, okay? So what are some of these protections and insurance, okay? I'm actually planning a whole episode on travel insurance, and it's an area that I think is very important for a lot of you to understand, because just in case something goes wrong during your travels, you need to know that you're covered. And I'm writing a whole big outline for that. There's a lot of details, but I am going to break it down for all of you in a future podcast episode. But I'm just going to go through some of the travel insurances and protections that a lot of credit cards do offer. And it's the same with this Amazon Prime Visa. So there's baggage delay insurance. So if your baggage is delayed by a certain amount, then it'll reimburse you X number of dollars, usually on like a per day basis. Here, they'll reimburse you $100 a day for up to 3 days. For essentials, like buying toiletries or clothing, if your baggage is delayed more than 6 hours, okay, you need to keep all your receipts, because you need to kind of just pay for things yourself, keeping in mind the limits of the insurance. And then afterwards, you have to submit all your receipts and all the proof of the delay to the credit card's insurance company to get the reimbursement. There's also a lost luggage insurance. If the airline or carrier loses your luggage, they might reimburse you some amount of money. In this case, they reimburse you up to $3,000 per traveler for the cost to repair or replace your baggage if it's lost, damaged, or stolen. Again, but a lot of these things, you need to provide proof and documentation, probably from the airline or whichever carrier has lost or damaged your luggage. And you have to kind of keep all the receipts, keep everything, and submit that to the credit card insurance company. This one also has auto rental coverage. So this is basically covering for damage to the rental vehicle itself. So that is just a sample of some of the travel-related protections and coverage that this particular Amazon Prime Visa card gives you. This is a good example of a credit card that gives you quite a lot of different protections. And a lot of travel credit cards do provide these things, similar types of coverage as well. But a lot of them, they charge an annual fee. So one of the unique things about this particular credit card is that it's no annual fee, and it also provides you some of this coverage that you hope you don't need, but it's nice to know that it's there. So they also have what's called an Amazon Visa, so no Prime. And this is the version of the Amazon Visa that is for people who do not have a Prime membership. It's still $0 annual fee. It's still no foreign transaction fees. You get the same coverage in terms of like the travel protections as I gave a sample of before. The only difference between these two is that with the Prime version, you get 5% cash back for Amazon.com purchases, and also if you buy things on the Chase Travel Portal. And the Chase Travel Portal is basically Chase, that's the bank that issues these Amazon credit cards. They have a website the Chase Travel website portal where you can book flights, hotels, what have you, any kind of travel. And if you book your travel through them, then you get this extra cash back. The non-Prime version only gets 3% back at Amazon and the Chase Travel portal. And the Prime version, they have this thing called a Prime Card Bonus, which is eligible card members get 10% back or more on a rotating selection of items and categories on Amazon.com. So it's like an extra kind of like bonus just for Amazon Prime members that have this particular Prime specific credit card. But whichever version you get, a lot of you guys shop at Amazon. Even if you don't, like I don't have Amazon Prime. I only shop at Amazon if it's like the cheapest or like the fastest way to get something because I've kind of weaned myself off of Amazon. That's a topic for another time. But even if you only shop at Amazon occasionally and you don't have the Amazon Prime membership, this is the other perk that they have. 2% cash back at gas stations, restaurants, local transit, and commuting, including ride shares. That's pretty decent. It's something, when you're not paying money for the credit card, to have a little bit of cash back on gas, restaurants, like transit, ride shares. And a lot of people have those types of purchases on the regular. So that's pretty good. And you get 1% back on all other types of purchases. So to not be paying money for the credit card and have no foreign transaction fees, which means it's going to be good for you to use anywhere in the world when you're traveling. Also have some of the travel specific protection and coverages, and to have a bit of cash back, even if you don't spend that much money on Amazon. And if you do, you get even more of a cash back. It's actually a really, really good credit card. The second credit card I want to highlight has a different set of perks. Okay, so we talked about, it's great for a credit card to give you like baggage delay insurance and to reimburse you some money, or like if you're renting a car. There are also some other types of travel perks that are available on some credit cards as well. And a good example of this is the US Bank Altitude Connect Visa Signature Card. It's not a card that was on my radar usually. There's some credit card issuers in the US, Chase, American Express, Capital One, some examples that are like they're really big credit card issuers, and those are the ones that make a lot of effort into marketing a lot of their credit cards, especially their travel credit cards, and those are the ones that get a lot more of the coverage and the fanfare. US Bank is not quite up there with like Chase and Amex, for example, but this particular credit card is actually a really good one. No annual fee, no foreign transaction fees, and with this one, it's a points earning credit card. So you can earn points that you can redeem for like travel or other things. So 5 points on prepaid hotels and car rentals if you book through a specific US Bank Altitude website. And then 4 points on gas and EV charging, up to $1,000 per quarter. So there's like a cap on that 4x points on gas and charging. 2 points on dining, streaming services, and at grocery stores, and then 1 point for everything else. So it's a pretty typical type of a rewards point structure that also you might see on a lot of other credit cards. You see basically 1 point for most purchases, but for certain types of purchases, they give you extra points, like 2x points, 3x points, or 5x. The impressive thing about this particular credit card is a couple of the travel perks that I think are super valuable, and it's not something you would usually see on a no annual fee credit card. So the first one is it gives you up to $100 in statement credits towards TSA PreCheck or Global Entry every 4 years. So if you don't know already, TSA PreCheck is a program you can apply for, and then you can go into an expedited airport security lane. So whenever you go to the airport, you have to go through security. And at pretty much every major US airport, even some of the smaller ones, it's almost at every airport, honestly, that you might go to. You get the regular security line, and then you also see a pre-check security line. So the benefits of going through the pre-check expedited security is that usually the line's a lot shorter, but most people are not registered in the pre-check program. When you are doing the pre-check security line, you don't have to do certain things that you might have to do in the regular line, like take your liquids out of your bag, take your laptops and tablets out of your bag, take off your shoes, take off like a light jacket that you have. By not having to do those things, it makes the process of going through security easier and faster. The fact that this credit card gives you $100 towards the pre-check or the global entry application. It's just kind of free money. If you're interested in getting it, or you're gonna get it anyways, or you already have it, it will also cover the renewal fee. Global entry is for international travel. When you're coming back into the US, a lot of places will have a expedited passport control lane for global entry. And again, it's just a much faster, easier way to do the passport control. But that's $120. If you do global entry, it gives you pre-check. If you have pre-check, it doesn't give you global entry. So something to keep in mind. Maybe if you're interested, I'll do a whole thing on like global entry and pre-check and all those types of programs in the future. If you're interested in that, let me know. Just comment down in the YouTube comments. All right, the other thing that's really great about this credit card is it gives you a complimentary Priority Pass Select membership. Priority Pass is a program that gives you access to airport lounges all over the world at all sorts of airports. I have a credit card that gives me Priority Pass, this exact type of membership that this credit card gives, the Priority Pass Select. And pretty much every airport I've been to, like all over the globe, I was just in Hong Kong, and I actually went into one of the lounges there with my Priority Pass Select membership that I got from one of my credit cards. This is a really, really great perk. A lot of the times, it's the more expensive credit cards, those Amex Platinum or the Chase Sapphire Reserve. Those credit cards are like $600 or $700 just in the annual fee. It's usually those premium, expensive travel credit cards that usually give you Priority Pass Select. And to have this Priority Pass Select on a credit card that doesn't charge you any money, this is kind of like a hidden gem of a credit card, I think. I think US Bank, because they're not a big player in like the travel credit card game, if you will. When they were trying to, build up all the perks for this credit card, they're probably thinking, we're not a big player. We need to like make a name for ourselves. We probably need to have a credit card that gives outsized value for what it is to like lure people in as customers. So if that is what they're trying to do, I think mission accomplished. The fact that I'm talking about this credit card. If you want to have a taste of like the luxury travel life, just a little bit of it, and pre-check and Priority Pass are great ways to dip your toes into that. The fact that this credit card is a free credit card, no annual fee, gives you these two things, the credit for pre-check or global entry, and also the free Priority Pass Select membership. Is a great way to do that, to see how the 1% lives, just a little bit, to see how what are all these people doing in all these exclusive airport lounges? Or like, what are all these, how much better is it to have pre-check? I think this is a great credit card for that. It also gives you a couple of the travel protections that I briefly mentioned before, not as much as those Amazon credit cards. So you have trip cancellation and interruption benefit, and there's also a trip delay benefit as well. All right. Those two credit cards I found were particularly outstanding in terms of the value they provided for a credit card that did not charge an annual fee and also had no foreign transaction fees. So this last one I'm going to mention is not quite as impressive in a way, but I thought it was worth mentioning anyways. So there's a couple of them, and they're from Capital One. So there's the Venture One Rewards, and there's also the Savor, SAVOR, Savor Rewards. Both of these, no annual fee, no foreign transaction fee. The way they differ is that with the Venture One, you are earning miles with your purchases. So it's 1.25 miles for every purchase, but you get 5 miles per dollar on hotels, vacation rentals, and rental cars booked through the Capital One Travel website portal. With those miles, with this credit card, you can transfer them to some of the airline and hotel partners that Capital One has. So I talked about the US Bank credit card, the miles you get with US Bank. As an example, you cannot transfer those US Bank miles over to an airline or to a hotel chain. With the Capital One Venture One Rewards card, you can do that. Capital One, they just have these partnerships. I have a Capital One credit card myself, not this one, a different one. And I have access to those travel partners of Capital One's, and that's kind of the usual way. I use my Capital One miles. I transfer them to an airline or to a hotel chain, and then I redeem a award airfare or like an award stay at a hotel that way. And it also gives you Hertz 5-star status. So Hertz Rental Car Company, they have different status levels for frequent renters of the cars. And with this credit card, you automatically get what's called the 5-star status level, which is like the mid-tier of the 3 tiers that Hertz has, which is kind of nice. If you do rent cars once in a while to have a little bit of status, sometimes you might get, priority. There may be like a counter for people with status, so like be a shorter lineup. Sometimes you might earn some extra points or miles with Hertz by having the status. Sometimes you get a free upgrade. I was just in Vancouver visiting family just last week, and I rented with Avis. One of my credit cards gives me a status with Avis that I would otherwise not have. And I got upgraded because of the status. Like the person at the counter explicitly said, oh, because of your Avis, whatever status level, we're giving you an upgrade. Yeah, your car's waiting for you outside. It's the black SUV. I rented just like the cheapest, basic, whatever, Toyota, Prius, Yugo, whatever level. So I paid like next to nothing. It was barely $100 US for like 3 days. And they gave me this giant Ford Expedition, which is like the Ford equivalent of a Chevy Tahoe. I looked it up. The car I was driving is like an $80,000 car. 2025 Ford Expedition. It's got a whole bunch of screens. It's got a bunch of features. Very plush leather seats. These are running boards that like deploy on the side when you open the door. Power, automatic, everything. It had that adaptive cruise control thing that like steers for you on the highway. I mean, I only had the car for like barely 2 days, so I didn't use any of it. But to have my credit card give me that status for free, that car, if you were to rent it, like I paid $100 US for that rental for like 3 days. If someone were to like just pay upfront to rent an SUV like that, it would cost them like what, $300 or $400. Not every time you rent a car, you're gonna get an upgrade like that. I'm giving you an extreme example. There have been times where I rent and I didn't get an upgrade because the upgrades are not guaranteed all the time. But sometimes you get an upgrade and sometimes it's very nice. So yeah, this credit card does give you Hertz 5-star status. So the other Capital One credit card, the Saver Rewards credit card, it doesn't do miles. It does cashback for those of you that prefer cashback. So it's 5% cashback on hotels, vacation rentals, and rental cars booked through that Capital One travel website. 3% cashback on grocery stores, dining, entertainment, and select streaming services. That will be a key category for a lot of people. And then 1% cashback on everything else. So some people like miles, but there is a little bit of thinking and strategy and a little extra work involved in terms of like, okay, you have miles now that you earn. There are all these different ways to redeem them. And sometimes for people, it's just easier to do the cashback. They don't want to deal with miles and points. They want some reward on purchases they make. And cashback is a much simpler, easier, straightforward way to get some value back out of purchases you may be making on your credit card anyways. So the Saver Rewards card does cashback for people who prefer that and want that simplicity. It still gives you that Hertz 5-star status as well. So with these two credit cards, you don't get a lot of like those travel protections and coverages I mentioned before, like those Amazon cards gave you. It doesn't give you any extra on-the-go perks like with the pre-check credit or the lounge access that the US bank credit card gives you. But these are good for people that want maybe a little bit more cash back out of their purchases. Maybe they don't care so much about having all this extra coverage or protections, and they're never going to go into a lounge and not interested in pre-check, but they want to squeeze a little more value of the money. They might want a little bit of their money back on purchases that they make, or they're interested in getting into points and miles because they want to start accruing some points and miles to help pay for some of the travel that they want to go on later in the future. So the Capital One credit cards are particularly good for that. All right, so I've given you 3 examples of 3 pretty different types of credit cards that are all no annual fee, no foreign transaction fee. Those are like the key features, but you can see that there are a range of these types of credit cards, free credit cards basically, that are great to use for travel purchases and while you're traveling internationally, but it also gives you additional perks, whether that be travel protections and coverage, whether that be a rental car status, so if you need to rent a car, whether that be lounge access, or help pay for some of your TSA pre-check application renewal fees, depending on what your preference is and what you want to do. So make sure next time you're thinking about taking a international trip abroad, make sure you're using the right credit card. And I've given you some examples of good ones here. Take a look at your wallet and then see, are the credit cards in my wallet the good ones if I ever want to take an international trip? But until next time, let me know what you think about, if you want to know more about credit cards, comment down in the YouTube section below. Or if you want me to talk about some other travel topic, my ears and my comment section is always open. Just drop me a line down there. But until next time, bye y'all.